Hello comrades. Now, I'm making a video about a topic which kinda infuriates me. This is something that Western liberals say all the fucking time, and when I first came on YouTube as a viewer rather than a producer of content, I was kinda into the so-called new atheism. I just considered it atheism and not new atheism, but, you know, the whole thing is called new atheism. And it's this new school of atheists that have emerged, like people like Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and all these people on YouTube. Now, I'm an atheist myself. I've pretty much always been an atheist, but I didn't really think about that stuff until I came on YouTube. That kind of got me thinking about it more, and it also kind of politicized me originally. Now, I was probably like 15 at the time, 14, 13, I don't even fucking remember. But that kind of politicized me, and that was back when I was a liberal. I didn't really know anything about anything, but I was young and stupid, and I was a liberal. But this big thing that new atheism has is this idea that they don't, like, a lot of these people who are liberals. They have a different kind of Islamophobia from the conservative Christians, because the conservative Christians, of course, hate Muslims because they think they're the wrong religion, and a lot of these conservative Christians are really racist as well, so they hate any people who are not white European or white European Christians. But the Islamophobia of the liberals is slightly different, and you can actually see this really well if you watch, for example, the Young Turks, who are a liberal program, but all of their videos which talk about either of two things, either sexism or Islam, all of those videos have a shit ton of dislikes. Like the most recent video where they talked about Islamophobia, it had like half and half dislikes and likes among the so-called progressive liberal viewers. And it just goes to show you that they're all a bunch of Islamophobes and racists, and a bunch of sexists as well. It's interesting because the Young Turks, I don't really agree with them on a lot of things, but it's weird. They're actually more progressive than their average viewers. Their average viewers are a lot more reactionary than the Young Turks themselves, because they say that okay, Islamophobia exists. They even called Sam Harris out on his bullshit, on his Islamophobic bullshit, and Bill Maher as well. And the so-called progressive audience just explodes with dislikes and hatred. So their shtick basically is that they say that that Christianity is bad, and they're atheists, and so that religion in general is bad, Christianity is bad, but Islam is way worse somehow, and somehow that's not fucking racist. Well, I mean, there's the cliche that they say, oh, Islam is not a race. Well, yeah, but it's a bunch of African people and a bunch of Middle Eastern people. That's the fucking reason that all these racists call them, like, sand, N-word, and towel heads, and all these kind of... And they call them primitives and savages and all kinds of shit like that. It's obviously a fucking racism. Even the liberals, who wouldn't go as far as call them primitives, even they say that Islam is just worse. Islam is worse than Christianity. Now, what exactly makes you think that? I mean, it was shown in a study that most people can't even, separate which verse comes from the Quran and which verse comes from the Bible. It's the same fucking shit. I've always said this. It's the same fucking shit. The source material is basically identical. Like, okay, the New Testament has some better stuff, and the guy in the New Testament, Jesus, he's like a small-scale cult leader. He's not a warlord the way Abraham is or Muhammad is. But if you compare the Old Testament and the Quran, the shit is fairly similar. It's like kill infidels, steal their shit, same fucking deal. So the source material for Jews, Christians, and Muslims is basically the exact same shit. At least when we're talking about the most negative aspects. They all got the same stuff about killing witches and killing heathens or infidels. 'Cause to me it's just preposterous that these liberals are saying that really like Islam is just it's just a particularly bad religion because it just glorifies martyrdom and suicide bombs. Like, really, really, motherfuckers? Like, you really think that back in those days they even could conceive of a fucking bomb? Really? Like, have you ever read the fucking Bible? In the Bible, it's always like about martyrdom and stuff. It's the same shit. Who is a fucking bigger martyr than Jesus? You know? Well, I mean, they might reply with, oh, well, there's more Muslim fundamentalists than Christian fundamentalists. Well, you know, that's probably true. I mean, there's 2 billion Muslims, and, you know, it's only a tiny, very tiny fragment of them who are actually radical. But even if that is the case, then do you really think that it's the source material that's causing that, or you know, do you think that it's something else? Because look at these Western liberal, you know, moderate Christians. They read the same Bible which says to kill infidels, kill heathens. You know, if your son disobeys you, then the entire, you know, town should just gather together and stone him to death. That's in the Bible. Or when you conquer an enemy's land, you should, like, take all the virgin girls to yourselves as sex slaves and kill everybody else. That's from the Bible. Now, do you really think that the difference is the source material, or is it something else? Well, obviously it's something else, because the moderate Christians, they just ignore that shit and they don't follow it. It's the same with moderate Muslims. They don't follow those commandments which tell you to kill non-Muslims. So there's fundamentalists on both sides. Now, what exactly really creates fundamentalism? Because both books have plenty of stuff that glorifies fundamentalism and violence. The real cause of fundamentalism is poverty. I mean, compare the fundamentalist Christians in Africa and the fundamentalist Muslims in the Middle East. There's not a whole lot of fucking difference. Look at the Christians in Uganda, what they're doing, and, you know, look at what the Wahhabists in Saudi Arabia are doing. It's the same thing. To me, it's nothing but racism and Islamophobia to say that, oh, if you're a Muslim, then you're inherently more dangerous because your religion is inherently more dangerous. No, it's not fucking inherently more dangerous. It's the same exact fucking thing, with slight changes. It's not inherently more dangerous. Muslims are not inherently more dangerous, and you shouldn't be afraid of Muslims. Because to me, this is an incredibly fascist and scary idea that, you know, what Sam Harris said. When Sam Harris said that, you know, this and this percentage of Muslims are fundamentalist, and some of them are radicals, so therefore, you know, whenever you see a Muslim, you should be like, well, he might be a fundamentalist, he might be a radical. Maybe we ought to, then, you know, put a little star on them so we can recognize them easier, and then, you know, maybe round them up and fucking kill them all. Because they're all so dangerous. I mean, you know, not all of them. I mean, they keep saying they're not all Muslims, like, we don't hate all Muslims. Well, if you don't hate all Muslims, but you still can't tell if somebody is a fundamentalist or not, so you still treat them as a fundamentalist. You're like, well, that guy on the bus, he has a beard, and he, you know, has a Quran, he might be a fundamentalist, kind of gotta be scared, gotta be careful. You know, it's basically just a racist excuse to invade the Middle East and steal their shit. That's all it is. And these so-called progressives are totally buying into it. I mean, Christopher Hitchens is the perfect example. Because he even outright supported the Iraq war, even though most liberals wouldn't. Especially not afterwards. I mean, that fucker, he supported the Iraq invasion after the fact. After it was found out that it was based on lies. He was still like, well, we need to do it, you know, because freedoms. The big irony is that he claimed to be a supporter of Leon Trotsky. Trotsky, you're in some fucked up company. I mean, that's a new low for Trotsky. I mean, not that that's really a criticism of Trotsky. I mean, Hitchens is of course Hitchens of course was the worst Trotskyist ever, but that just kind of shows what Trotskyism is like. It's like a bunch of people who think they're leftists, but they're still anti-communists. And then the natural conclusion of that anti-communism is, Christopher Hitchens is like defense of imperialism, defense of racism and capitalism, with like vague progressive sounding and left sounding rhetoric, like, oh, we want to liberate these people. By the way, I like Trotsky. Meanwhile, fucking bombs innocent poor people and insults their religion. But I'm a communist, I'm an atheist, and I think that, atheism is of course the way to go. It's the most scientific way to go. But if somebody is like a moderate religious person who accepts science but still believes in some sort of God, I have no problem with that. I think because I'm a materialist, that doesn't really, that contradicts religion. But, that's a philosophical argument. It doesn't really matter that much at the end of the day. You can still apply materialism and Marxist historical materialism to, reality. Because most religious people don't think that God is like intervening in our shit all the time. They don't think that, oh, the stock market crashed. Well, obviously it's not because of capitalism, it's because of God, or Satan. They don't think that. So, if you don't think the God is actively controlling shit, then it doesn't really matter at all, one way or the other. So, we as communists, we should really combat this idea, this Western Islamophobic and racist idea, fundamentally racist idea that Muslims are just inherently more dangerous, because their core beliefs are supposedly more dangerous, like almost on a subliminal level.